The Church Fathers are the saintly Christian writers of the early centuries of the Church. Their writings bear witness to what the early Christians believed. Tertullian, quote, "We offer sacrifices for the dead on their birthday anniversaries," unquote. Quote, "A woman after the death of her husband prays for his soul and asks that he may, while waiting, find rest, and that he may share in the first resurrection. And each year on the anniversary of his death she offers the sacrifice," unquote. Cyril of Jerusalem, quote, "Then we make mention also of those who have already fallen asleep. First, the patriarchs, prophets, apostles, and martyrs, that through their prayers and supplications God would receive our petition. Next we make mention also of the holy fathers and bishops who have already fallen asleep. And to put it simply, of all among us who have already fallen asleep, for we believe that it will be a very great benefit to the souls of those for whom the petition is carried up, while this holy and most solemn sacrifice is laid out," unquote. John Chrysostom, quote, "Let us help and commemorate them. If Job's sons were purified by their father's sacrifice, why would we doubt that our offerings for the dead bring them some consolation? Let us not hesitate to help those who have died and to offer our prayers for them," unquote. Augustine, quote, "There is an ecclesiastical discipline, as the faithful know, when the names of the martyrs are read aloud in that place at the altar of God, where prayer is not offered for them. Prayer, however, is offered for other dead who are remembered. It is wrong to pray for a martyr, to whose prayers we ought ourselves be commended," unquote. Quote, "But by the prayers of the Holy Church, and by the salvific sacrifice, and by the alms which are given for their spirits, there is no doubt that the dead are aided, that the Lord might deal more mercifully with them than their sins would deserve." The whole Church observes this practice, which was handed down by the Fathers, that it prays for those who have died in the communion of the body and blood of Christ, when they are commemorated in their own place in the sacrifice itself, and the sacrifice is offered also in memory of them on their behalf. If, then, works of mercy are celebrated for the sake of those who are being remembered, who would hesitate to recommend them, on whose behalf prayers to God are not offered in vain? It is not at all to be doubted that such prayers are of profit to the dead, but for such of them as lived before their death in a way that makes it possible for these things to be useful to them after death," unquote. Quote, "Temporal punishments are suffered by some in this life only, by some after death, by some both here and hereafter, but all of them before that last and strictest judgment. But not all who suffer temporal punishments after death will come to eternal punishments, which are to follow after that judgment," unquote. Quote, "Nor can it be denied that the souls of the dead find relief through the piety of their friends and relatives who are still alive, when the sacrifice of the mediator is offered for them, or when alms are given in the church," unquote.